Hello, welcome to Live on Wednesday night with Lynn and
Aiden.
This is my son Aiden. So hi, Mary Lynn. I see you're the only one here, so I told Aiden we'd take a few minutes before to give people a chance to come by before we dive right into this. So how was your day? How's your week been going? Just waiting for got my Tourette shirt on. Aiden has his on. No, it's hard to see on that. Yeah. Oh, Marilyn said hello. So we're just waiting. I assume we're live. I don't have my YouTube screen up, so I'm assuming it's working. I
assume it says that in the corner.
Oh, how has your week been going? What was that? Something big just went down the street. Oh, there's Rem. Hi, Rem. This is my son, Aiden. Rem and Mary Lynn are two of the people I met at the convention or the conference. I keep calling it a convention at the conference that I went to. Rem lives in Nova Scotia and Mary Lynn is in Quebec. So it went well planting in the evening. I officially planted my last vegetable plant Monday. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not counting the 2 rose bushes that I still have to plant because I have to hold off on planting them right now. But, oh, Mary Lynn's in New Brunswick too? Why did I think you were in Quebec? Just planted about 40 long keeper tomatoes. That's a lot of tomatoes, but we know they'll last, right? Okay, yeah, Mary Lynn's in Quebec. Rem's in New Brunswick. Yeah, okay. Oh, did I say Nova Scotia? Sorry, Rem. Did I?
Yeah.
I know it's New Brunswick. I meant New Brunswick. He's not too far from where Daddy's Grampy is from. But I think it's only half of what I have. Oh my goodness. I will say I gave away probably about 60 plants this week. Monday, I said, that's it. I'll plant what I can. And I literally planted basil and bell peppers everywhere I could. I had some empty containers. They went in that. I now probably have 40 or 50 basil plants all over the property. Like it's crazy. And I still have a good 10 or 15 basil plants left that I'm hoping someone's going to come take, because if not, I literally cannot plant anymore. I can't. There's no more space. I have no more space for basil.
If you have any space left in general, this whole section of the yard is covered in plants.
Well, if I have my way, we'll have no front yard. We'll just have food. So we are a little nervous here tonight. We'll know more around 9 o'clock. We are possibly under another tornado watch for tomorrow.
Yeah, I heard that.
So yeah, we're gonna, after live, we'll be going and taking everything off my porch, doing what I can to protect my plants on my deck and stuff. So I'm a little bit nervous. I really hope. And Tiana, yes, I meant to ask you, Tiana. Hi, welcome. That's who we get our beef from. We picked up our beef order today. It filled our it took up quite a few shelves in our freezer. We're so excited. I meant to ask you if you wanted basil, and I was going to bring you some. So even if we're not home, they're right on the front yard on a white table. Help yourself. They're organic. I think there's 1 cinnamon basil left, and the rest are all sweet basil. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot still. I think there must be about 10 maybe left. So please take them. If you know anyone else who wants them, take them. It's a knife to my heart to think about just them dying and stuff. So, but like I said, I'm done. I cannot plant any more basil. We're just going to we'll give everybody about 10 minutes or so to come in. And
there's 7 people in here already.
Is there?
Yeah.
We're 1. So
there's 6.
Yeah. I'm just waiting. So we've got 3 we know of. So it must be some more maybe people in here who just haven't chatted. So, and I'm just going to say, we're open to questions tonight too about Tourette's. For the most part, I am a bit of a mama bear. So if I think something's a little too much for Aiden, we'll just probably ignore it. But I'm not really anticipating that because I pretty much know everybody who comes to my lives. But if there's any new people tonight or whatever, but for the most part, we're pretty much an open book. Tourette's isn't anything to be ashamed of, right?
Nope.
Yep. So yeah, so I'm a little bit nervous about this weather coming. Really, it's getting darker outside, but they say that they'll know better at 9 o'clock tonight. And right now we're under possible severe risk of the storm. So I'll say a prayer for us here in our area again. A lot of people literally just got their power back not too long ago from the last storm. We were very blessed and we did not get hit with it here like a lot of areas did. So so is your t-shirt working, Aiden? Do you want to say how you came up with that shirt? Because something happened in the fall.
So in the fall, I was getting introduced to my high school because it was my first time there. I've only been there like a few times. I didn't really know it that well. So we were getting introduced everywhere, and we were with a small group of people. And I was a little bit nervous. I was taking a bit. One of my ticks is winking like this, and it just so happened that someone looked at me when I did that, and I think they thought that I was flirting with them because that's what it seemed like, and it was pretty embarrassing. But yeah, that's how I got the idea for what the shirt said.
He came home. He's like, "Oh, Mom, you're not gonna believe what happened to me." Oh, we like to laugh about it, don't we? Because what else can you do? Sometimes it makes you want to cry. But yeah, that he was like, I was so embarrassed, Mom. They probably think I was hitting on them. Just so you know, when Aiden gets nervous, ticks get worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Joy G, she's one of my subscribers. Hi, this is my son, Aiden. Welcome. We'll just give everyone a couple more minutes and then we'll start. And some people might even wonder, what does this even have to do with homesteading? And even if it didn't have anything to do with homesteading, I would still do this live because this is very personal and important to us. But it actually has something to do with homesteading because part of the reason we wanted to have this lifestyle is because of Aiden's Tourette's. It is part of it. We wanted to live in a country setting where he'd have lots of places to play, a small school, small elementary school that would help him what's the word I'm looking for? Socialize and hopefully get a little bit more help. Help has been very hard to get in our area for this. Mom became the occupational therapist. Mom became the speech therapist. Mom became the nutritionist. Mom became like quite a bit, right? So yeah. So it does have to do with homesteading because the more we looked and wanted to do this, the more we wanted to do it, not just because it was on our bucket list of things I wanted to do, but we knew it was going to be better for Aiden. So actually you were diagnosed when we were already living out here. We knew something. I'll hold off. I won't say anything. I'll give everybody one more minute and then we'll.
Well, it was the year after because I got diagnosed when I was in 3rd grade.
Right.
It became when I was in 2nd grade.
Right. Yeah. So hard to believe.
Wow, it's been 7 years.
It'd be 8 years this month. Yeah. Next week.
Wow.
I know. It's hard to believe. I was saying to Dad, it'll be 10 years this September since I got diagnosed with cancer the first time. A decade. It's hard. Time goes by so fast. So, okay, I'm just going to start. So, for anyone that is new here, tonight's live is about Tourette syndrome. Our son Aiden does have Tourette syndrome. And I guess I'll start when Aiden was about 16 to 18 months. Some things started changing with him. One, he lost all his words. He was saying quite a few words, and then all of a sudden, he lost them. He would hold up, yes, Aiden's 15, Mary Lynn, just turned 15 in April.
I would have laughed at you said 14.
Yeah, but he's 6'1", size 11 shoe. So he would like say he'd have this in his hand, and he'd know it was a glass, but he would look at us, and you could see the absolute frustration on his face that he could not get the words out that this was a glass or his sippy cup, we'll say cup. And he'd get very angry, and he'd throw the cup or have a little bit of a meltdown. I knew something was wrong. He also stopped eating everything he was eating. Like literally everything he liked, he suddenly didn't like anymore. And that was about 18 months. And I knew something was up. And our first thought is, of course, autism, right? Because 18 months, we went, and our family doctor put him through some testing, said that she didn't believe it was autism. One of the things I will tell you, we heard, this really irritated me. Oh, you have a boy this time, because our oldest was a daughter. This is what being a mom to a boy is. That really irritated me to no end. That really bothered me. But anyway, so she did a little bit of testing and found, no, he doesn't have autism. But he does definitely have some speech issues. So he started going to speech therapy, and he wasn't comfortable there. So mom ended up doing speech therapy at home. And then we lucked out in the preschool that Grace had gone to previously. We stayed in touch, and they found out about Aiden, and they actually were going to have a teacher who was, let me turn that, a speech therapist, because they were going to have a severely special needs child in that class, but she wasn't going to be there full time. So they said, if you want to let Aiden come early, he wasn't 100% potty trained because he was only about 2 years and 4 months. We can start working with him and help him with his speech. That was a godsend. Like that, Miss Robin helped us. So he started in September, and in December, I'll never forget this, I went to pick him up, and they asked me to stay. And of course, I was nervous. They said, you're not going to believe this. Today, as we were picking up all the toys, at the bottom near our legs, we were hearing this little jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle bells over and over. And they looked down, and it was Aiden. So in just those few months working at home and working with Miss Robin, Aiden got his speech back. Of course, I burst into tears. So we'll fast forward a little bit. He got to be about 3.5, and his temper was like full on, big, scary. Hi, Patrick. He's saying hi to you. He just kept having these rages, and the eating. Oh my gosh, the eating. He would eat 5 things. There was 5 things he would eat, and that was it. Oatmeal, yogurt tubes, chocolate quick bunny.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
The little mini go yogurts, and there was one other thing, and I can't believe I'm forgetting it. Banana. You would eat bananas. The pureed. That's it. And he lived on them forever. So again, we go back to the doctor, and they say, oh, he's high needs. He's high needs. He needs a lot of attention. He gets bored easily. He's high needs. So of course I buy a book or 2 or 3 about high needs children and what that means. And there were some things in it that I could definitely say Aiden fit, but not everything was fitting. Like the anger, the loss of speech at 16 and 18 months, the food issues, like those weren't fitting the high needs. So when you guys were about 3.5, we got posted back. This is when we were in Nova Scotia. So we got posted back here in Ontario. Got a fabulous nurse practitioner, Rebecca. She was incredible. And she was listening to me. And she says, let's test him again for autism. Let's test him for Asperger's and a few other things. So they tested him, and they said, well, he's got a few things on the spectrum, but not enough to say he has it. He does have a very high IQ. Some people who are very smart tend to get bored easily. So we heard that again. So this goes on. He starts school, and this is where my stress started happening, because I would get daily calls from the school. Aiden has had an anger fit. Aiden has, thrown things. Aiden's upset. This would happen for quite a while. From kindergarten right through to grade 7 was when they got better. I was petrified when the phone would ring Monday through Friday. I would count down the time until Friday, because I knew Don't have to worry about that phone ringing on the weekend. I would look forward to holidays. I would look forward to summer vacation, Christmas vacation, because I knew I wasn't going to have to get those calls from him. So when he was 10, we reached out to the Military Family Resource Center, which is a perk we have here in the military. And they had counseling that we could go to that didn't cost us anything. So we went to the counselor and we filled out tons of paperwork. And, oh, hi, Melissa. Thank you for stopping by. And she's reading over the paperwork, and she had one session with Aiden. She called me in and she says, I agree with you. There is more going on here than he's just got an anger issue. There's more going on. And she gave me a thing. We took it to our family doctor, and they sent us to a specialist. So we finally get to a specialist, and he was 10. And after about one session, he says, I think I know what's going on, but we'll wait. We'll do some more things and whatever. By the third session, he told us, he says, I believe Aiden has Tourette syndrome. My husband and I looked at one another and said, what do you mean he has Tourette syndrome? He's not swearing like every 3 seconds out of nowhere. He's not saying bad words for no reason. What are you talking about? So when you have a child who's diagnosed with anything, you become an expert. And the first thing we start learning is less than 10% of people, it's called corporelia when they do that. Less than 10% of people with Tourette's actually have corporelia. They actually have that. So a lot of people, nope, that's okay, Jean, you're right on time. A lot of people, this is Aiden, think that's what they think of Tourette's, right? And again, I buy a lot of books. I buy a lot of books. I join support groups, and we start finding out. And when the doctor starts talking to us, a light bulb goes off in our heads because we're like, this is Aiden. This is Aiden. When he was 2 or 3, he would do this all the time. And what would people say to you all the time?
Do you need a tissue?
Do you got a cold there, bud?
Yeah.
You need to blow your nose?
Or
and he would lose his mind because he didn't have a cold. What we found out was that was one of Aiden's very first tics. I didn't think anything of it. I just thought that was Aiden. The winking thing too you were doing. Yeah, that was one of you still have that one. Scrunching up his face. He'd scrunch up his face. We just thought it was his personality. Had no idea that was considered a tic. So a lot of people would apologize, say, oh, I'm so sorry to hear Aiden has Tourette's. We were relieved because we had known for years there was something going on more. And once you know what it is, you can start getting help for your child. And I think that was the most frustrating thing, because I'm like, look, I'm his mother. My husband, like, I'm his father. We know him better than anyone. Something's wrong. And so we start going down the road of therapies, but then we lost you did have occupational therapy for a little bit, and then she got married and moved away. And it made it very hard for someone like Aiden to he was really starting to get close with her, and then she leaves. And after that, he was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So like I said, mom became occupational therapist.
And that constantly happens.
And it constantly happens.
Find something good, and then it just gets taken away.
Yep. And then we found another place. And then, so kids with Tourette's typically have more than just Tourette's. They're usually diagnosed with some other things. Aiden does have some other things. He has ADD. Yeah. He's got, his is not deficit. His is attention disorder, where he can get hyper focused on one thing to the detriment of everything else around him. Like he can get very focused on the one thing, and he just can't stop that one thing until he's finished with it. He also got diagnosed with ODD, Operation Defiance Disorder, which we're still, as he's getting older, we're thinking maybe that wasn't so much that, it was just more of the Tourette's. But anyway, so he has that, and you have a little bit of OCD.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got OCD, which is very typical with Tourette's kids. He has issues with diet, as a lot of you know, because I've talked about it on my videos. That's been a struggle. It gets a little bit easier, but it's still hard. Aiden didn't sleep through the night until he was 12. He had night terrors and nightmares until he was 12 years old, sleepwalking. He still doesn't sleep the greatest sometimes, but we're finding ways to. Physical activity helps him a lot. He has tics. Do you want to talk about what some of your tics are?
Yeah. So, I guess Some of the tics I used to have, I don't have anymore, which I'm very grateful because I had one really annoying one that I hated so much, and I'm so happy that I finally don't do it anymore. The one I hate was I made this like weird sound in my noise, like a like that kind of thing. I had this tic for what, 3 years maybe?
Yeah.
3 years maybe. It was really annoying. I could not stand it. I was trying so many things to try and get rid of it, and nothing was working.
What happens when you suppress a tic?
When you suppress a tic, it feels fine for like maybe a couple of minutes, and then it gets really bad to the point where you're just like you can't stop doing it. It feels like it just feels like you just cannot stop. And then yeah, so suppressing tics is never a good idea. You should,
and it makes it hard for you to concentrate, right? Because you're thinking so much about trying to stop. What about the one where you got hurt with the shoulder? Remember that tic? The shoulder tic?
I used to have very happy I don't have the one anymore. I hurt myself doing that multiple times.
And just so you know, a tic that he might have had 5-6 years ago, he may never have again, or it could show up again. We've had a couple of tics that have showed up. There was another one you did with your throat. Was it clearing your throat? No.
I don't remember what that one was.
I can't remember what that one was now. It went with the sniffing. We've also found out my husband actually has Tourette's too. He's never been officially diagnosed, but the specialist we went and saw with Aiden, when he starts talking about some things, I keep looking over at my husband because I'm like, David does that. David did that. David talked about that as a kid, that he would do that. David had rage issues when he was a kid. So it is hereditary. It can be hereditary. So, and David has tics. Daddy clears his throat a lot. Yeah. There's some other things, but yeah, so it is hereditary. I'm trying to think of some of your other tics you've had. Some have come and gone. Sometimes talking about tics can bring one on too. So we're I
had the sniffing one for a long time.
Yeah, that one was years. That one took forever. And Aiden has triggers, what we call, where something would just flip a switch and the rage would come out, the tics would come out. And one of the triggers was people constantly asking him if he had a cold. That would just tick him off, literally. So are the tics come and go alone, or you have something to stop one? Aiden doesn't take any medication.
No.
The specialist asked us, he said, well, we can put him on meds. And then he gave me, I kid you not, a 25-page sheet of side effects from this medication, front and back. I was like, are you kidding me? So we had a long talk. And I said to Aiden, I said, how do you feel about going on medication for your tics? And what did you say to us?
I said, the tics do not bother me so much to the point where I need to take medication. I can't speak. Medication. I just felt like it was unnecessary.
But you
the
said,
tics did not bother me.
They don't bother me if they bother someone else.
And if they bother someone else, then that's their problem. It's not mine.
I'm so proud of him. So we've just learned how to work around them. Oh, thanks. Oh, yeah, that'd be cool. All their dairy cows are pregnant right now. That would be pretty cool to see some babies. So thank you, Tiana, for dropping by, and we'll let you know how the steaks go Sunday. So the triggers, that's what he had a lot of problems with in school. So I just want to say, this is our truth. This is not everyone who has Tourette's truth. This is just our experiences, and everybody with Tourette's is different. We feel grateful because Aiden doesn't have, that's right. Aiden doesn't have, there are people who have tics that are so severe, they look like they're having seizures.
Yeah.
Like their poor body and they can't stop.
It can actually do a seizure if it gets to really
so
bad.
We're actually grateful that, hi, Ren's Homestead. Thanks for dropping by. So triggers at school. One of the things was noise. Aiden's that was the other thing when he was younger. He was always sensitive to noise, which is because we all kind of are, but Aiden really so. And school could be very noisy for him. And the other part is a deep sense of justice. If the teacher tells you all to sit down and listen, Aiden's like, what do? We
just sit down and listen. I mean, To me, it was simple instructions, but
Yeah, and there would be to the point where he gets so upset because he's like, Mom, I don't understand why they're not doing it. That's the other thing with Tourette's. It's either black, it's white. There's no gray. Which he's not wrong, but it makes for a very difficult life because there's a lot of gray in life. So he couldn't understand why the kids wouldn't listen when the teacher asked him to, please be quiet so we can go on to the next thing. It would drive Aiden crazy because he was doing the right thing. He was listening. He was doing what he was told to do, and nobody else was. And that would drive him into a bad place. Another trigger for him is change. That's getting a little better as you're getting a little older. But boy, oh boy, when he was younger, if the teacher said, we're having a spelling test on Friday and she couldn't get to it, oh, we're not going to do it on Friday. We're going to do it on Monday. That meant for a very rough weekend for Mom and Dad, because Aiden's like, we were supposed to have it on Friday. She said we'd have it on Friday. I studied all week for it on Friday. Why didn't we have it on Friday? He's not wrong, but like we tell him, sometimes things happen, and he just could not understand why. And there's still a lot of things that happens with you.
Yeah.
You know, more so with high school. He actually got exempt from French class. Everyone here in, just I'm going to say, hold on a second. Let's make it, we'll stop for a second. And do you want your mother to do cinnamon buns more often?
Oh, absolutely. Cinnamon buns are amazing. I usually steal them all.
Yeah. Remy said he used to do weird tics as well, and my parents would laugh at him. We never laughed. We just didn't think anything of it because he'd always done it. My son does not change unless he makes that change himself. Yeah, he doesn't. I have a 20-year-old son with autism. Okay. So there's a lot of parallel. There are some characteristics of Tourette's and autism, which is why we thought Asperger's, because I have a cousin with Asperger's. I don't think they call it Asperger's anymore, but that's what he was diagnosed with 20 years ago. And a lot of things he would do, Aiden would do. So we were thinking that. So yeah, and I have a friend with a son with autism. So what else? Oh, the night terrors. Those were hard. Like I said, he didn't sleep through the night until he was 12. He'd sleepwalk, which would totally freak my husband out. Because he'd just stand over you until you felt somebody looking at you, and you wake up and there he'd be sound asleep, walking and talking, totally out of it. We had to do melatonin for a little while, not every night, but that would help. But honestly, the best help for Aiden, even now, is physical activity.
Yeah.
If he goes to the gym with his father several nights a week, he did cross country, he did track and field.
Yeah.
He'll be doing more physical things through the summer. That's what helps him. When he hasn't had physical activity, he has a really rough hard time sleeping. So that's hard. What else do we got to talk about? There was one other thing that just got to me and I couldn't remember it. You've only had bullying experience once. There was one bully, and I will say this bully was a bully to a lot of kids, not just Aiden. So I don't necessarily think it was Tourette's that was making him be a bully. I just think he wasn't a very good. Oh yes, thank you, Marilyn. Yeah, Rem, you're right. It is. It helps me sleep. You were talking about French class. Yeah, so he got exempt from here in Ontario. You have to take French from fifth grade to ninth grade.
Yeah.
But because
4th grade to 9th grade.
4th grade and 9th grade, French was such a trigger for him because it was extremely noisy. Partly is because it was the last class of the day, right?
Yeah.
It would be the last class of the day after
day.
Recess. So the kids would come up amped and.
Oh, in grade 6, it was the beginning of the class. That time it wasn't so
bad, but then they changed it.
And then it got worse when
your French teacher he was a wonderful, nice man, but he tried to be more friends with the kids than authority. And and it would get really, really loud, and Aiden would it would be bad. He'd have a really rough time. And we actually had to have do you remember what that was called? That plan they gave us, safety plan, that we had to do for Aiden from 1st grade on.
Yeah.
Because he scared some kids when he gets scared. He threw over a desk a couple of times. He threw a full water bottle at the wall. Those were rough years. I wasn't sure we were going to make it through those years, quite honestly. But I'm so proud of him now. We've come a long way. They actually were able to get rid of the safety plan. we loved our school. They helped so much. And she called us and said that, yes, I'll get to that in a minute. She called and said, he has done so well. There was no incidences in 7th grade. 8th grade was kind of hard because that was online and in school and online. But they said, we don't want this safety plan to follow him through high school, so we don't need to have it anymore. That was like the best day of our life. We were so proud of Aiden when that came. Explain the speech related to Tourette's. They think it's because of the tics. No one's ever really been able to explain to us why he lost speech all of a sudden, other than they just think so much was going on with his brain that things just couldn't keep up, if that makes any sense. Like your brain never stops, does it?
No.
It's like going 100 miles an hour all the time, which is probably why he is a whiz at Rubik's Cubes. Like amazing. Puzzles, period.
Yeah.
You like being able to take things apart, put them back together, figure them out. We bought him quite a few different puzzle type illusion things over the years that you had to figure out how they were put together. And he like, I can't do them. But so they think it's something to do with that. They've never really been able to explain to me why he lost his speech. They said it doesn't happen with every kid with Tourette's. Some kids are later to develop speech with Tourette's, but not suddenly lose speech. That's not a huge, it does happen. So they weren't like shocked, but they said it's not common. They also think that Tourette's can be caused by streptococcus, which is interesting because, I mean, one, he has, hereditary issues with it, but I actually had strep throat when I was pregnant with Aiden. So they've done a little bit of testing to see, and kids with Tourette's can be more prone to strep throat because of it. You also have that autoimmune disease that we forget about.
Oh yeah.
How do you say it again?
Seborrheic
dermatitis. That it is an autoimmune disease. And oh my gosh, what were the statistics? Like 70 or 80% of kids with Tourette's have that.
It's actually gotten a bit better.
Yes, it has. They're hoping you're going to outgrow it, but it is considered an autoimmune disease. So, not at all the same, but exercise helped me sleeping, being mild and not. Yeah. It helps Aiden. And I think the fact that he goes a few hours before bedtime, right? Like I certainly wouldn't want him to do it too close to bedtime because then it would hype him up. But the fact that he goes a few hours before, we notice when you don't go for a couple of days, just when you notice your sleep's not so great.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I hope I explained, Joy. I really don't have an answer because none of the specialists had an answer for us. They weren't shocked that it happened. There's several things. So French people does that. What, being noisy, Patrick? So he was able to get exempt from taking French. So he didn't have to have it in high school. And that was like a big load off your shoulders because he knew that those were a trigger for him. So that helped big time. Do we want to talk about what happened with your braces last November?
Yeah, we can do
This is when I get mad at the medical field because they need to listen to the parents. So Mary Lynn's saying, hey, French people. Mary Lynn's French, but Patrick's French. So,
it's fun.
So we were told last summer when we started the braces that Aiden would need a spacer put up on the roof of his mouth to help spread his teeth and help his overbite because he had one of the worst overbites the orthodontist had ever seen. And I said to them, can you explain this a little bit more? So they explained what it was. And I looked at him in June and July last year and I said, I don't think he's going to be able to handle this. That is a lot. It's a lot. I said, I don't think he's going to be able to handle this. And it's going to limit his diet even more than it already is if he has to have this thing for 6 months to possible a year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no way. We have lots of special needs kids who are in the practice. They're able to handle it. I said, do these kids have Tourette's? Well, no. I said, I'm telling you, I don't think, he'll be fine. And they wouldn't listen to me. So we go in October.
Yeah.
We go in September and you got fitted for it. That wasn't too great. He gets fitted for it. And they show the before and after too of what's going to happen, which he looked at that and he's like, oh my gosh, Mom, I want the braces, like, because my overbite, like they're going to fix it for me. So
I had no idea what I was
October comes and we go and get this appliance and she brings it out and it's nothing like a retainer like I had. It is this, how do you explain it? It's almost like a mouth guard that the hockey players wear, except there's nothing in the front. So it's this big, huge, I'm sorry, I'm going to use my mouth. It's this big, huge thing that went up on the roof of his mouth and it went quite a ways back.
Yeah.
I mean, quite a ways. And I was supposed to tighten this twice a day, once in the morning, once at night. And we were supposed to keep tighten it. And before we even left the office, I could look at him and I could see it in his eyes and he was having a hard time. And I said to her, I don't know how, oh, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. So we get in the car and we're about 20-minute drive from the orthodontist. And I look over and one single tear rolls down his face. And he's like, Mom, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And I'm trying not to cry because I don't want to upset him. Sorry, somebody's messaging me here. And I don't want to upset him. And I'm like, there's no way, there's no way. So we get home and he goes up to his room and my mother was visiting at the time. So I come in and I start crying and my mom's like, what happened? And I told her, I said, Mom, he can't take this. He cannot take this. There's no way he's going to be able to live with this for 6 months to a year. If they had told you, I don't even know if you could have done 6 days. Like it was bad. So he comes downstairs and he says, Mom, if we can't get this removed, I'm going to take it out myself. I'm going to find Dad's pliers. I'm going to cut all the wires and I'm going to pull it out myself. And we know he's going to do it. We know he is. And so I called them and I said, I have to come back to the practice right now. He needs to have this appliance removed. There's no way he can have this. I tried to tell you all. I said, I'm not trying to be a Karen and cause problems, but you all wouldn't listen to me when I told you he was beyond capable of being able to have this appliance. So my husband comes home from work and he sees this thing in his mouth and he's like, I couldn't take this in my mouth for 6 months to a year. Like he says, what are they thinking? You felt like you couldn't breathe.
Yeah, or swallow.
I
had a hard time eating in general because food would constantly get stuck up under it.
And he would drool. Like he was drooling like a St. Bernard. Like just drool.
Yeah, I had a cup with me. I had to spit in the cup because I could not swallow my saliva.
So 3 hours after he had it put on, we're back in the office and they're all shocked. And they're like, whoa, like, what do you mean? I was like, if you don't take this out, he's finding his father's pliers and we're all in bed tonight and he's going to cut it out. I'm telling you, you need to hear my words. So they took it out and they said, well, we can't guarantee his overbite will be 100%. We're like, you know what? At this point, we're just worrying about all the crowding because Aiden had his teeth look amazing already. It hasn't even been a year yet, but he had his front teeth and he had a set of teeth and back of his 2 front teeth. So that's what we were mainly. I mean, yeah, he has an overbite and yeah, like we didn't even know about your profile till he showed us that. So, but they were like shocked. And this is when the mom guilt kicks in because I come home and I'm like, I cry to my mom and I'm like, I feel like I'm a bad mom because I feel like I'm not explaining to them and in the right way that they're getting it. And she's like, Lynn, it's not you. They just haven't had a child with Tourette's in their practice before, or at least they don't know they have. And they listen to us now, don't they?
Yeah.
They listen to us now. But things like that, something as simple as having that appliance put on, it was more than Aiden could take. Hi, Tanya. That's my friend Tanya. Yeah, and thank you, Melissa. Yeah, we, it just we didn't have the resources here. They did send us to Toronto twice, which is over a 2-hour drive one way. And that wasn't the greatest experience either. So I just said, you know what? I'm going to work with them myself. I watched YouTube videos on occupational therapy, physical therapy. I read books. I feel at this point, I'm almost an expert in Tourette syndrome. Yeah. So what would you want people to know what it's like having Tourette's?
Most people have a very stereotypical view on Tourette's, and most of the time it's not true. Most most people think that Tourette's is the swearing thing. I don't remember what the scientific term for it is.
Corporelia.
Corporelia. Most people think it's that. And that's mainly because like it's not really their fault because that's kind of what other people have made it out to be. And there are people that have that. I'm not saying that they're not, but like that is it's a very small percentage, and it's not everything that Tourette's is. It's very different from that.
I will say that is another thing. Aiden has impulse control. Is that what we would call it? Where sometimes things come out before he has a chance to think.
Yeah.
And for instance, I'll never forget, we were in a department store, and there was a young man in front of us, and you were probably 5 or 6, and he had extremely long hair, gorgeous hair, down to his behind, and he had skinny jeans on, and he was very thin, and he had earrings, everything. And I literally saw it come across his face, and I'm like, Lord, please, please, please wait till he leaves. Please wait till he leaves. Please, Mommy, is that a woman or a man in front of us?
Oh my gosh.
And the guy turns around and looks at us, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And he turns around, and my husband's no help. My husband's like losing it laughing. So that wasn't any help. So yeah, things like that. The blurting out things a lot of times, and not always being able to control his mouth, for lack of a better term, that can happen. Just real quick, we'll get back to you. Just occupational therapy. It's just a fancy word for, like, she was trying to help Aiden with his eating issues and trying to encourage him to try different textures. And a thing with him is if it smelled funny, if it looked funny, anything like that, if anything on it was off, he couldn't. I mean, there were many times at the table where you'd be trying. I mean, he truly would be trying, and he'd be crying, and he'd be like, Mommy, I want to put this in my mouth so bad and try it. I do, but I just can't. And that's one of the things I want people to understand, that sometimes it is because you would rather eat a bowl of cereal. Yeah. Let's just admit it. Sometimes having a bowl of cereal is funner than having, whatever we're eating. But I'm going to say 90% of it is beyond your control. And I don't think people always get that. And people think, oh, you're just spoiling him and you're letting him have a bowl of cereal. Family members, maybe, especially. And it's not that. I'd give anything for Aiden to be able to go have a slice of pizza with his friends. It just, yeah. Or to eat cheese. Three cheese lovers in this house, and nope. So occupational therapy, yeah, they helped him with his dietary issues. What else did she do? Try to help you figure out coping mechanisms to handle your triggers. It's just a fancy term for therapy. I'm not sure why it got occupational, but yeah. So, what is something what would you want people to know about you and Tourette's, and has it stopped you from doing anything?
Absolutely not. Tourette's does not stop me from doing anything. I love sports. I run track and cross country. I play basketball. I love sports. It has not stopped me from doing it.
There were some sports that were harder, so you just said, you know what, this isn't going to be for me.
Yeah.
And you found something you could do.
I used to play soccer when I was younger, and the tics were so bad when I was younger that I couldn't play soccer. Yeah.
The ball would go by him, and he'd be trying to tell his body to go kick it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, his teammates would yell at him, which would cause a trigger. So, yeah, but that didn't mean you couldn't do any sports. We just had to find what worked for him. You want to have a career, like you hope to, have, you don't plan on that stopping you. It doesn't bother you. Let's put it this way, Aiden. I'm going to put it this way. I would not change Aiden for the world. Absolutely would not change him for the world. I would change the world for my children. That's what I would do. The other thing. During the last 2 years, Aiden was mask exempt because that was hard, wasn't it? Oh, that was hard. It became a tick, constantly pulling on the mask, constantly pulling on the mask, constantly pulling on the mask, and then feeling like you couldn't breathe. You couldn't, Like it was bad. And then you wear glasses with the mask and you couldn't see, which
Yeah.
drove him crazy because then he can't see anything because it's got. So it was a whole thing. So we got mask exempt for school, for riding the bus. He actually could have been mask exempt for everywhere, but because we were worried about people, he would, when we went out somewhere and he went with us, he would wear one. Aiden hardly went anywhere for 18 months because of the mask. And we were worried what was going to happen if people saw him without one. We shouldn't have to explain to anybody why he's not wearing one. But unfortunately it would happen, wouldn't it? And yeah, so.
Especially at school. Actually, there was a few times where we sent in a thing to the staff at school saying that like they sent a picture of my face and they're like, he has a mask exemption. I'm fairly sure I was the only one in the school that had a mask exemption.
I thought there was one other.
I never met a single other kid that had one, and I still got asked questions like, "Oh, where's your mask? You know, put a mask on." And I had to constantly explain to them that I was mask exempt,
which caused that was a trigger.
Yeah. So very happy that there's no mask requirements anymore. So now I don't have to worry about it anymore.
I just wish people understand if someone's not wearing one, there's probably a very good reason why they aren't. So let's just be kind and, understand that.
And I can't really say it's their fault because there were kids at school that weren't listening to the rules and, they do have to ask it.
So does anyone have any questions for us about Tourette's and, Thank you. See, you got to be nicer to me. Yeah, actually, he's not a bad kid. Either is Grace, but I will say that as a family, this has affected us in a way that the mom guilt, a lot of mom guilt going on. Sometimes we felt bad for our other child because so much has been focused on Aiden at different times, and Aiden is very much I know he loves me and I know he'll do anything for us, but he doesn't necessarily say it. You have to see it in his actions and what he does for you and things like that. That's how he lets you know he loves you. That's been a hard one for me to come around to, and understanding that he may not going to say it. Even if you say it to him, he's not going to say it back. Doesn't mean he doesn't. I forgot one of your issues too, personal space.
Oh yeah.
And try telling that to a 5-year-old that you're right here. You know how 5-year-olds are. I don't want to do it to you, but they get right in their face. And Aiden would back up and he'd back up and he'd back up. And eventually he would even start telling them, please, too close. And they wouldn't stop, which would cause him to have a fight. He'd shove the other kid or whatever, but he wouldn't go right to that. It's just because he tried so many times to tell them to back up and they wouldn't listen, which they're 5. So they don't understand that being in his face was hard for him. So I will say the 6 feet thing, when the 6 feet thing came out, Aiden loved it.
Best thing about this whole COVID situation was the social distancing.
Aiden loved that. He's like, he said, we could do that all the time. That doesn't have to be just for this. So what games do you play on the computer? The ones you cannot play on Wednesday night? Oh, because I'm on a live.
Oh.
So have you really been on the games lately? You kind of been, that's the other thing. Obsessions. He can get obsessed with something. And it will be all he thinks about, all he wants. But that's it. That's all he talks about. Anywhere from 6 months to a year. One time it was Minecraft. That was a good year. Lego. Lego was a long time. Like he loved doing the Lego. I mean, a lot of kids do, but Aiden took it up a step more. Rubik's Cubes. Those have been around a long time. You've kind of been, but I think they help you. So that's one of the reasons you like them. But what games, you like your Xbox.
Yeah.
You like thinking games, don't you? Where you have to figure out puzzles and where you're going. And what are the names of them? Fortnite.
I have a game called Craftopia. It's basically just a fun little game to play.
And you like chess. You and Dad love chess. He plays chess with his father. I don't know how to play. So Patrick says he still likes Lego. He's a Lego dude still today. Little Homestead on the Beach said, you should go live in Sweden or a country like that where people are naturally not too close to each other. He'd fit in there as tall as he is.
I look average height over there.
I don't know how we got this giant. I don't. Yeah, so I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, you like chess. You play chess with Dad. What's the other game you guys were always playing on the computer with Dad? Solitaire. Is that what you guys are playing? No. What was the other game?
I don't really remember.
And
we had a word game that we used to play.
Yes, that word game. Yeah. In the wintertime, we play a lot of games as a family, and you like Uno.
Yeah. That
can cause a lot of fights. Skip Bow, again, that can cause a lot of fights.
Skip Bow gets annoying.
What's that one? Phase 10.
Oh no.
That's worse than Monopoly for a family, because I'm telling you, if somebody gets stuck on phase 3 while everyone else is going on to 7, 8, 9, that person on phase 3 gets a little ticked off.
And we seem to have a curse whenever we play that game. It's just like, the other person throws us something that we need, but we can't grab it.
You can't grab it because it's not our, So he's always liked games. You've always liked games. That's something we've always played, whether it was Candyland or checkers or Chutes and Ladders. Yeah, you've always loved that. Like I said, we consider ourselves fortunate because there's definitely different degrees of Tourette's, and my heart goes out to the people who can't drive, they can't hold a job, they can't sleep because their tics are so severe that they can't even live, and my heart breaks for them. So Dutch Blitz gets violent over here. I don't know what that means. Oh, is that the game? A game called, okay. I haven't heard of that one. Yeah, even I'm been guilty of losing my temper. I know Daddy's in the other room right now going, yeah. We just heard him. I'm not the only one who loses it. Oh, is there anything else you'd like people to know?
That TikTok thing.
Oh, yeah. How that bothered you? Yeah.
So you just talk about that. That's the most important thing. How long was it ago? Was that thing?
You talked about it, I think, back in the fall. Was Nanny here? I think Nanny was still here, so October. So it must have been back in the fall.
Last year, October. Yeah. There was, I don't know how many of you guys know what TikTok is, but
we're not. Look you. We all know what TikTok is.
On TikTok, there was this trend that was going around where people were faking having Tourette's for attention, and
doing the swearing.
Yeah, they did it. Most people did it as a joke, and I know that there were certain people that they didn't really mean it in an offensive way because they were just joking about it. But when that happens, it does get quite offensive because so many people are acting like Tourette's isn't a big deal, and it's just something that you can brush off and say, oh, well, whatever, it's just nothing. And of course, there are people that have really severe Tourette's, people that injure themselves, people that constantly can't stop moving because their brain just you need to do this so many times. And, those people must have been so mad at that challenge because it really is a big deal for certain people. And the fact that people online were just acting like it was just something to joke about, it's quite offensive and it's quite rude.
Yeah. Because if they knew what it was like to live with it every day.
Yeah, those people have no idea what it's like to actually have it. And yeah,
it bothered Aiden a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
Thankfully, it's died down a lot.
Yeah,
so
wasn't it a challenge?
Yeah,
people were supposed to record themselves and see how people reacted to them acting like it. Yeah, that wasn't cool.
I know I see there are people that have Tourette's and there are people that do it and they kind of joke around. That doesn't bother me so much when it's just a friendly little joke. But when it's that, it's a whole different story. It's not the same thing. It's just joking around. It's very offensive.
It's not fun when you're having to live with it. And
you know, like this new generation, everybody's on TikTok. Everybody at school is on TikTok. Everybody at school knew about the challenge, and everybody at school was doing the challenge, and that made it a lot worse because, you know, the kid with Tourette's, you know, and everybody's doing the challenge, and yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the reasons Aiden agreed to do the live, because he was so mad about that TikTok challenge. So yeah, but
it has died down.
Unfortunately,
so
people are idiots. So as we like to say, but yeah. So I guess, yeah, and like I said, we do feel I hate to say, I don't want to say we consider ourselves blessed, because it could be a lot worse, but that doesn't mean that it's not difficult sometimes. For a mom standpoint, I worried a lot for a long time about what's he going to be, you know, what's his life going to be like as an adult? Is he going to be able to drive a car? Is he going to be able to have a relationship? Is he going to be able to have a career? Like, those were things I worried about, and I don't worry about it anymore. I don't worry about it anymore.
Oh.
So my son is nonverbal. That is hard, Melissa, and that's why my heart goes out to you, because, like I said, we know it could be a lot worse. And for those months he was nonverbal, it was so frustrating as a mom to see him struggle trying to get these words out, and he could not get them out. He just could not, and he literally, like, he'd physically try to shove them out of his mouth, and they just wouldn't come. And Grace, God love her, your sister, she's like, Mommy, he wants a drink in his cup. Like, she would know. Like, she would, I mean, I knew what he was trying to tell me, but I'm like, Grace, we're trying to get him to say it. But she would say, he wants a drink in his cup, Mama. You know, because she was like 4 or 5. Yeah, well, 3 or 4 when you up. So yeah, he and I just, like, Aiden's a great kid. He really is. He's funny. You're smart. He, you know, you're very funny. Sometimes he thinks he's funnier than he is. But I just can't imagine, you know, and this is who he is. And I think because he's smart and he has so many wonderful qualities, I always said, I think it's God's way of making up for all the, I don't want to say, what's the word I'm looking for putting up with all the other stuff he has to live with every day. He helps compensate with your thinking abilities, your problem solving abilities, things like that. I think he kind of helped, you know, kind of make up for it. You are a great debater and arguer. We're trying to convince him to be a lawyer. Yeah, that Aiden can be a little bit, I don't know. Would you say you don't like to be restricted? I don't think it's that. Aiden, he wants to, if you tell him, look, you can't do this, because, you know, he says, well, he wants to know why he can't. And it's not because you're necessarily being combative. You just want to understand in your mind, why can't I do that? So when you say, well, you can't do that because it's unsafe or whatever, then he'd be like, oh, okay. Like, he totally would understand.
Yeah, so kind of like how my mind works, that if something tells me not to do something, I don't see like why I shouldn't do it, because I'll be thinking like, okay, well, nothing's gonna happen if I do this, so why can't I do it? I'm just not seeing the reason why I can't do it.
Because it's the rule. Well, Mom, I don't understand why it's the rule.
It's like, why can't I do this? I mean, like, nothing's gonna happen. That's
stupid,
that's
Mom.
Just how my mind
That's stupid.
works.
I don't understand that, Mom.
Yeah.
Why can't I do that? He said, why do we have to do this? Why? He said, it doesn't make any sense. He said, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't help us. It's not any credit for a grade. How do you answer that? Because he's not wrong. But like we've told him, you know what, buddy? There's going to be lots of stuff you got to do that you don't want to. It's part of growing up. And sometimes you just got to do it, whether you like it or not. Right? So, and that's sometimes hard for him to understand. But I think as you're getting older,
yeah,
he's understanding it. I think the other thing people need to understand is Tourette's is forever. It doesn't get cured. And you can get diagnosed with Tourette's later in life. It took us a long time. We, you know, looking back, you've had Tourette's since you were 2. 18 months, 2 years old, but it's forever. It doesn't go away. There's no cure for it. It's a neurological disorder. You can't catch it.
No,
You
it's
can't
not
catch
contagious.
it. And there's ticks that you can have, for years. They go away. You never have them again. There could be ticks that you have over and over and over again, and they do come back. So it's just one of those, funny things. Not so funny, I guess, but
Oh, and I should say, neurological disabilities are not the same thing as mental illnesses. People get those two mixed up. They're not the same thing at all.
No, they're not. I think because brain chemistry with mental illness and neurological is two different things sometimes. And I think people think they're the same, but they're not. See, we become experts.
Well, an example why is for example, something like depression, right? You can get depression, you can come out of depression. With a neurological disability, you have it forever.
Yeah.
And with mental illnesses, depending on what you have, you can get rid of it or it can come to you. It's that kind of thing.
I mean,
it depends on what you have.
Yeah, it depends on what kind of mental illness you have and stuff. But yeah. And there can be some mental illness that comes with Tourette's because you can become depressed. You can have anxiety attacks because, especially if you're in a new situation and you're worried what people are thinking about you, winking at them. We got to make fun of it, right? So that's what he's always been. I mean, there's only been a few times where you've been really upset at your Tourette's because it, something happened or something you could be on your control. We've told him never, don't worry about suppressing your tics. Don't. It just makes it worse. And you can't concentrate on what you're doing. There was a time where we even homeschooled Aiden for a little while.
That was back when the bullying problem was still a thing.
And his anger was out of control because the bullying wouldn't stop. And Aiden's sociable. He's a social being. Out of all of us, he's probably the most social of all of us. And his Tourette's has never stopped him. I think it's because you've always had pretty good friends who were all like, you got Tourette's? Oh, well, big deal. I have blue eyes. I have brown hair. I've got red hair. I got green eyes. That's how they always looked at it. So it's a different generation too, right? People are talking about this stuff a lot more. I know for me, I'll never forget, I had watched LA Law. I'm aging myself a little bit. And there was a case on LA Law where a man was suing his employer because they had fired him because he had Tourette's, because he would blurt out inappropriate things and stuff. And he didn't think it was fair that they fired him. And this was late 80s, early 90s. So, it was a different world. 2 weeks later, at my first job outside of blueberry raking, I worked at McDonald's. And 2 weeks after that episode, I waited on him and he had Tourette syndrome. And when he was ordering, a couple bad words came out. He called me a couple bad things. But because I saw that episode, I totally knew what it was. So I always thought that was amazing. I always thought that was fate, God, whatever you want to call it, making sure I saw that episode when I was 14, 15 years old, because that man was going to come into my life. So, but it also made me think that's what Tourette's always was. I did not know that there was degrees and that it's actually very rare to have that. So I'll never forget that guy ordering and him saying that. And that's why Tourette's never entered our solar system when we were trying to figure out what was going on with Aiden. Thank you, Joy. I feel like I rambled on a little bit because my brain has got so much information. This is almost could be a 2 or 3 part live.
I could write a whole 9-page essay.
Well, remember in 6th grade? In 6th grade, his school, they do speech contest. And you have to pick a topic. And was it 6th grade? You decided to talk about your Tourette's. And he did a fabulous job with his speech. Is that the year you had to compete in the next level?
No, that was in grade 5.
Grade 5. And he talked about his Tourette's and letting people know. And I'll never forget that there was one part, remember where you said, sometimes you might notice me making weird sounds or my face might be making weird shapes. And you said something else. You said, you said, Tourette's is not, you can't catch Tourette's. It's something I was born with. And then you said something like, and it gives me superpowers.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You said, I just wanted to see if you were listening.
I said something and I was like, oh, yeah, Troy also gave me x-ray vision.
Yeah.
And then I went dead silent to see what the class
Which
said.
he goes, I was just kidding. I just wanted to see if you were listening. That's Aiden. That's his personality. So well, for medical purposes, no dental IVs, we have to sit beside. Oh, that's hard. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that dentist is hard for him. And then the braces has been hard. But he wants his teeth fixed because he's been very self-conscious of them. So yes, it is hereditary. They and like I said, I don't know if you were here in the beginning, but getting Aiden's diagnosis, my husband was daddy in his 40s?
You don't know his age?
No, when you got diagnosed.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So my husband's in his 40s, and we find out he has Tourette syndrome also. So, yeah, like, because when the specialist is going over everything, and I'm literally sitting there, and not only am I like, Aiden has that, but my husband has it. And the specialist said, so he started asking us more questions. Like he said, I can't diagnose you officially because you're not my patient, but it certainly, so yeah. And my husband had a 30-year career in the Canadian Armed Forces. So obviously it didn't stop him from, but my husband still has tics, and he'll be 50 this year. So, yeah, it's funny how it becomes white noise to myself, my daughter, the rest of us. But when my mother's visiting, she's like, doesn't that drive you crazy? I'm like, what? She says, that throat clearing. I'm like, what throat clearing? She goes, David's cleared his throat like 12 times in the last 2 seconds. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice anymore. Been married almost 30 years. Like, I don't notice it anymore. I don't always notice your tics unless they're severe.
Yeah. And
like you said, that shoulder tic he had, that was bad. He hurt himself. That one, I couldn't wait for that one to be done. Because he's like, Mom, it hurts so much. Like, I don't know if he pulled his muscles, wrenched his muscles.
Oh, I think what he used to do was this.
Oh, your shoulder. Yeah, and you had the arm one. And
that one,
yeah,
I really hurt myself with this one.
Yeah.
This one.
Yeah, you pulled your muscle or something. Yeah. And so
they pulled muscle, and I still couldn't stop doing this.
Yeah.
So I was doing this with the pulled muscle, and it hurt even more.
Yeah, so that wasn't fun. So I don't know if anyone else has any other questions you want to know. I hope we covered everything. I hope we said this in an intelligent way. And one more, he's doing better. Yeah, Aiden is absolutely doing better with his anger issues, much better. He too, like I said, we had a great support system with the school, and he was told, look, if they would tell him on a scale of 1 to 5, if you're starting to feel anywhere like, 5 is the worst, 1's the calmest, 5 is like, I'm going to like lose my mind. When you start feeling like a 2 or a 3, it's okay to get up and leave the classroom. Go for a walk around the school real quick, get a drink of water, and come back. So, and you've done that. And he's still allowed to do that. It's right in his IEP. So I thank God that we bought our homestead where we did, so he was able to go to the school system that he went to. It was a small school too. He had fabulous teachers. He had a teacher's assistant, Mrs. Bonner, who was amazing.
Yeah.
She was so amazing. Like, they cheered when he had successes. They cried with me when he didn't. Like, they were so wonderful. I don't know what we would have done. They got him some therapy in school too, because we couldn't get any. So I just want to leave you all with this. Much like I tell women, because of everything I've been through with cancers, if you feel something's off with your body, you yell, scream, holler, shout, whatever you have to do to get someone to listen to you, because no one knows your body better than you. It's the same with your children. No one knows your child better than you. If you know something is off, if you know something's not right, you just have to keep yelling and screaming until someone hears you. Unfortunately, I wish someone had heard me a little sooner, because then Aiden would have been, especially here in Ontario, once they get past age 6, there's no help. Like, unless you get a diagnosis before age 6, you're pretty much on your own. if
it
we
took years of yelling and screaming over someone
to
finally
listen, if we had
notice.
gotten him help 4 years sooner, I don't know what would have happened, right? He might not have had as difficult second, third, fourth, fifth grade year, sixth grade. He might not have had as difficult a time. So that's my one piece of advice I'll leave you with. If you think something's not right, it probably isn't. You don't, you know that child better than anybody, and better than any doctor, better than any family member. You know that child. So if you think something's wrong, just keep speaking until hopefully the right person hears you. For us, it wasn't even a medical person. It was a counselor who was volunteering her time at the Family Resource Center who finally said, "You're right. Something's more is going on here." And he was 10. So my biggest regret is that he didn't get help sooner. So, but I think we're doing okay.
Yeah.
He's a pretty great kid. So I'm going to thank you all for joining us here. Today ends Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month. It's from May 15th to June 15th, which is weird. We still don't understand why they do that. But anyway, the color is teal for the ribbon. And it's not just a month for us. Tourette Syndrome Awareness is every day for us. So I hope you all learned a little something. And I thank you for listening. And I thank Aiden for joining me on my live and being so brave to want to talk about it and how it affects him. And yeah. And the other thing I'll take you away with is Tourette syndrome is no different than if you're born with blue eyes or blonde hair. There's nothing to be ashamed of. It's no different if someone's born with diabetes. You wouldn't shame them for being born diabetic. So with that, we'll leave it. I hope you all have a great week. Please say a quick prayer for us here in our part of Ontario. We are under possible severe thunder, tornado, possibly watch again tomorrow, which is crazy. So we're a little bit nervous.
Is that bad?
We're supposed to know about 9 o'clock tonight if we're gonna. Jean, she wants to see your shirt real quick. Can you get closer? Here, let me see if I can bring this.
Is it mirrored in the camera though?
I don't think so. Can you see it? Says, "I am not winking at you. I have Tourette syndrome. Sorry to disappoint you." And yes, he came up with that himself. I made it. He came up with it. So, yeah. So I'm going to go out and bring all my hanging plants in, anything that's hanging out there just in case, and hopefully try and protect some of my plant pots and really hope my garden that I worked so hard on and finally finished Monday survives. And hopefully everybody survives. Thank you, Jean. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to hope that it's not going to be too bad. So good night, everyone. Thanks for dropping by. Probably I'll try and be on live next Wednesday. I have an idea of somebody I want to invite, so I just got to see if I can agree to it. And just a quick little tidbit. I am working on a Women of Homesteading group that we're going to be doing. And I'm hoping to make it a series. And I've got a few calls into some local women homesteaders, farmers, who I hope to be doing some videoing with and talking about how it's a little bit different as a woman to homestead and why so many women are coming to the homesteading lifestyle. It's growing in huge popularity amongst women right now, single women, married women. So I'm really excited about that. So you can start looking for that. I'm hoping near the end of June, maybe the first week of July. We're waiting for school to get out because here in our part of the world, school is until, well, for him, it's to the 24th. And then other schools like smaller grades, it's to 29th of June. So it's yeah, I love mine because I am. He's a Tourette's warrior. He absolutely is. He does not let anything get him down. He's going to fight tooth and nail. So good night, everybody. Have a great week, great weekend. And I guess we'll see y'all next Wednesday. Take care. God bless.